Why call it pride? Members of any minority who no longer buy into the majority's view of them have reasons to be proud. How is this different for queer folks? Part of our minority status is that we are invisible, and we should stay invisible, especially to ourselves. Queer pride challenges that and is about celebrating our visibility and really our existence. So how did I celebrate my gayness and newfound visibility? My first decade, say from age 13 to 23, there was no celebration, only shame of being ostracized if my family found out, or for that matter, anyone. Actually, my life improved after 18, but the fears around sexuality remained. I learned the lessons one learns when trying to survive in a hostile environment. What are these lessons? First, the ability to deny that there is a problem, like believing that homosexuality is a phase, which I read in my parents' encyclopedias when they weren't home, or telling myself that I'm bisexual and I should just wait for the right woman. Then, another lesson, the ability to understand what people really are about behind their facade and what they're hiding, and not just about sex. Who can I trust? Who would be an ally if the need for an ally were to arise? I also learned to question everything I'd ever learned about friendships, relationships, family, sexuality, and what is important in life. All of this on my own, without any support of family or anyone, until my early 20s. Once I started to gradually come out, I was introduced to a whole new world, an alternate reality that initially was completely separate from the straight world that I'd been living in. My fraternity brothers, with whom I was very close, joined the Junior Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary after graduating. I joined Gay Liberation. Immersing myself in the gay community of Amsterdam, I learned a lot about all the venues where gay people meet, safe ones like bars, restaurants, clubs, and spas, and dangerous ones where gay bashers might hang out. Luckily, I mostly avoided the dangerous places and never encountered violence. Others that I know were not so lucky. In the gay community, being gay was what mattered and what united us. I socialized with queer folks, mostly men, of all ranks of life and all segments of society, unlike my fraternity brothers. Also, I got to know men from many countries, as Amsterdam was the gay capital of Europe in the 1970s. I'm still in touch with several of them. The life lessons I learned thanks to queer pride are increased empathy for the human experience, understanding that there is more than one reality, and the ability to adjust and start over. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. Happy Pride. My name is the Reverend Jeremiah Kalendae, and I serve this historic congregation as its developmental minister. And I and our entire worship team are so glad to be joining you on this special occasion. If it's your first time joining us, or you're new to our congregation, or you're visiting with us online, I invite you to learn more about our congregation on our website and by signing up for our weekly e-newsletter, and also to talk with some of our membership leaders who are here with us this morning. We light our flaming chalice in honor of Pride this morning with these words from Blessed Are the Queer by H.P. Rivers. Blessed are the wanderers, seeking affirmation. Blessed are the worshipers, praying from closets, pulpits, pews, and hardship. Blessed are the lovers of leaving family and familiarity, leaving tables where love is not being served. Blessed are those who stay. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the queer, disciples of truth, living, breathing, sacred reflections of love divine.
It means something that's only yours to give. It means choosing the way you want to live. It means wonderful, and it means powerful. It means true. It means something as perfect as it's pure. It means waiting until you know you're sure. It means beautiful, and it's beautiful like you. Beautiful, beautiful. A little bit of glitter in the gray. Beautiful, beautiful. Something precious you don't simply give away. It means something that's always yours to keep. It's the face you don't take off to go to sleep. It means simple, and it means magical, like a kiss.
Like a kiss, it's the path that you choose to walk upon, not some fleeting thing you find one day is fun. It means innocence, it means confidence, like this.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm Robbert Schalekamp, and I'm your worship associate. Our worship team is delighted to be joining you both in our sanctuary and online. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious movement with over 1,000 congregations that gather each week to inspire religious learning, provide religious education for our young people, care for those who are suffering, and promote justice and equality in our world. Our liberal religious tradition arises from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience and ancient traditions. We are guided by liberal religious principles that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and encourage a personal search for truth and meaning. We honor the mystery and wonder of our lives and affirm that we are all connected to one another and to the interdependent web of life. We are a welcoming community with a rich history of activism for women's rights, civil rights, and LGBTIAQ rights. Next year will be another letter. We affirm a diversity of religious beliefs and philosophies of life and strive to dwell together in peace and goodwill and love. We invite you to join us in creating this beloved community. Please visit our website at uusm.org or our online newsletter at news.uusm.org for more information about the activities of the church and ways to get involved. There are a lot of ways. You may also want to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter on our website. As we begin this morning, we want to acknowledge that our church building and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Tongva people who live here and cared for this land for thousands of years. This land was stolen from the Tongva by colonial settlers. We recognize and mourn the often deadly harm inflicted on the indigenous people of this country. We lift up their grace, resilience, and relationships with these sacred lands. Come now and let us worship together. Announcements. Join UUSM's LA Pride Parade marchers Sunday, June 12, 10:30 a.m. UUSM is returning to the LA Pride Parade on June 12 for the first time since 2018, and we need you to join us. Members and friends of all ages are invited to help us continue a long tradition of representing our congregation and our values at this historic event, which is part of UUSM's even longer history of standing up for LGBTQIA+ rights and equality. The group will meet at the designated staging point near Sunset and Vine in Hollywood at 10:30 a.m. Bring water and sunscreen along with UUSM and/or, quote, Side with Love, quote, gear. Extra signs and banners will be provided. Public transportation or ride shares are strongly encouraged. Please email faithinaction@justice@uusm.org to sign up and to coordinate transportation. Hello. Please join the UUSM Squire in this year's Dining for Dollars fundraising concert for UUSM as they present UUSM Choir Talent Palooza? Huh? Palooza? Talent Palooza. I'll learn quickly. On Friday night, June 10 at 7 p.m., a donation of $15 to UUSM's general fund will be requested at the door. Prior to the concert, the choir is offering 6 exciting musical items up for bid. If you could have clicked the button in the newsletter and sign up, but today, at the order of service, the backside of the order of service, there is a QR code at the bottom. QR code. And if you click it, you can see the items, and I presume you can bid. Huh? Yes, Mr. Director. Winners will be announced during the concert. See you there. Last, another announcement. Dining for Dollars is back for the summer 2022. Remember all the wonderful meals and conversations from past Dining for Dollar events? I do. Well, we are about to do it again. Over the years, this church activity has raised much needed money and brought people together in community. You will be hearing about this in the news magazine and weekly emails. Visit our table after worship service out in the courtyard to learn about the program and how to participate. Yes.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn. This is number 170. We are a gentle, angry people, and little correction in the order of service. We are singing verse 6 as well. So 1, 2, 5, and 6. And if you're following in the hymnal, we are singing queer and straight together rather than the printed words.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is his prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento. Y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz. Buscar el conocimiento en la libertad. Servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como convenimos a unos a otros.
Stop.
time for all ages. In the welcome message just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that Unitarian Universalism is a welcoming community with a rich history of activism. I forgot something, I get it. But activism for women's rights, civil rights, and LGBTQIA rights. Most of the 28 years that I've been a member of UUSM, there was a group for LGBT members and their allies called Interweave. For years, UUSM walked in the Los Angeles Gay Pride Parade. The last time that I was there with UUSM, there were quite a few young church members and children of church members. Hopefully that will happen again this year when we participate in this year's parade. I will use this opportunity to say a few words about the origins of Gay Pride. The event that is most commonly associated with Gay Pride was an event called the Stonewall Riots in 1969. Stonewall was a bar for queer folks in New York. The police had been harassing people, and in the summer of 1969, the patrons did not put up with it anymore and fought back. Somehow, the queer folks won, and the police stopped harassing. Although similar events happened in other cities, it is Stonewall that people remember. Things improved, and from then on, there was an annual Gay Pride parade in New York and other cities. The authorities gave permission for the parade, and also elected officials started participating. In Los Angeles, the mayor usually can be found in a convertible and waving in the parade. After 1969, life gradually became easier, and acceptance of LGBT people greatly increased. In 2015, gay marriage became legal. Very few people of anyone would have seriously considered that possibility back in 1969. Married gay men now speak of their husbands, and married gay men, and many gay women speak of their wives.
Thank you, Robert. So we are doing a new thing today, and I'd like to invite all of our pastoral associates who are here with us this morning up to the chancel, and those who are at a distance, we will invite them in spirit. I see Beth and Allison and Gretchen. Please come up. So one of the things that I had hoped to do when I first arrived, but something intervened and we weren't able to meet in our sanctuary building anymore, was to commission the various leaders of our congregation, both to recognize their dedication to this community, and also, kind of practically just to know who's doing what and who's available. And today I'd like us to commission our pastoral associates who have been leading our congregation in caring throughout the duration of the pandemic, and whose newly reformed Pastoral Associates program is just launching, and we hope to make even more progress in the new year. So I hope you will join me in these words of commissioning. Do you all have your words? Let me give you some words.
Of course, Beverly has.
And you should have all gotten one as well, and it will be on the slides also. Beverly Allison, Cheryl Barnett, Helen Brown, Gretchen Goetz. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Getz. Denise Helton, Amy Lacombe, Beth Rondero, Linda Van Lichten, and Greg Woods. We come here today to commission you as our pastoral caregivers. As a developmental minister of UUSM, I am grateful for your willingness to serve in your role. I invite the congregation to offer these words. I charge you as members of the pastoral care team to listen with compassion to your fellow congregants, to care for yourselves and one another, to tend to the sacred in your encounters, to ask for help when you need it. May you know that your care is powerful. May you know that I'm available to guide and support you, and may you know that you are enough.
We are grateful for the trust you have placed in us. We promise to serve in this ministry of compassion, caring for others and ourselves, tending to the sacred in our encounters as spiritual companions and witnesses to life.
And together. As your minister and as your congregation, we now commission you as our pastoral care team for this coming church year. Thank you for all that you will give. Now, the worship associates are going to be commissioned in the new church year, and hopefully we'll have some RE teachers will be commissioning in the new church year. So let's look forward to this culture of gratitude and appreciation and recognition that I know we're all working to create, sustain, and nurture. Amen. In honor of Pride, we will have a recitation of the poem, I Had a Bad Dream, by our late queer ancestor, the Dr. Ibrahim Farajajé of blessed memory. I would invite our poets and readers forward to offer this reading.
I had a bad dream that lasted too long, that started some weeks, some months, some years, some centuries ago, of way too many people, places, laws, and things telling me that my colored body was not good, that it had no value, telling me that it could not be fat or too tall or too short or too skinny, telling me that bones and wheelchair bodies, bones and braces bodies, deaf bodies and blind bodies were bodies without value, telling me that we could not be colored and queer at the same time, telling me that black and white were the only realities, and that if we were anything else, or more than one thing at a time, or, goddess forbid, too many things, then we were doomed to be erased. Telling me that desire and sexualities were not fluid. Telling me that everything had to be either or. Telling me that I could not be a shapeshifter, a border bandit. Telling me that gender was fixed and that there were only two, and that male definitely equaled superior. Telling me that I was confused. Telling me that sharing of erotic power was wrong. Telling me that I could not raise my children. Telling me that I could not live and work in this country because I was suspect. Telling me that I could not claim my lover's body because I was not family. Telling me that my relationship did not merit any recognition by law. Telling me that I was wrong. Telling me that I was a shade, a shadow, a half-life. Telling me that I should not be allowed to exist. Telling me that I had no rights. You know what? I had a bad dream.
I had a bad dream that if I escaped the razor blades and pills of my mind, I would only encounter bigger, more brutal violence, more brutal tortures, more constant threats of violence, of annihilation, of massacre. I had a bad dream. I had a bad dream that they would still say that there is no such thing as persecution of queers in Gold Mountain. I had a bad dream. I had a bad dream that the queers would still say that we didn't care about what happened to others as long as we got ours. I had a bad dream that we would say that there is no such thing as queers who need public assistance, no queers in prison, that affirmative action is not our issue. These nasty old isms are just things of the past. Why don't we just get on with life? After all, the playing ground is already level. Why don't they just stop dividing our movement with all of their diversity and inclusion? After all, we're all equal here on Turtle Island. We're free and happy. After all, we don't have any political prisoners or prisoners of war here in the United States. Why don't they just stop whining? After all, no one suffers more than we queers. Why can't we all just get along? I had a bad dream.
I had a bad dream that we would be afraid of delighting in the dazzling display of our differences, and that instead we would run to new closets of, we're just like everyone else, new and renovated closets that would confirm our belief that different equals wrong. Condo closets that would promise equality if we but erase ourselves. Duplex closets that we would close in on us and suffocate on us. I had a bad dream. I had a bad dream that we would begin to believe, as we had been taught, that spirit and body did not belong together, that body was bad and colored, full of desire, needing to be policed, dominated, and controlled, just like we had been taught that women and the earth had to be controlled. I had a bad dream that we would forget that we were the dreamers of the dream, the tellers of the tale, the keepers of the rhythm, the tribes of the moon, the people of the rainbow, a sacred people. I had a bad dream. I had a bad dream that the violence against us would increase, that in Oakland and in Richmond and in Los Angeles and Santa Monica, in the military and the prisons, in veterans administrations, hospitals, and in reservations, in breast cancer wards and farm towns, in AIDS wards and homeless shelters, in abortion clinics and parks, in immigration detention centers and sex clubs, in shrines, places of prayer and prostration, and mental hospitals, we could still be lynched and executed at will. Bitter fruits of a bitter tree. I had a bad dream.
I had a bad dream that once dispersed to the four directions, we will be forgotten like the countless others, victims of a media whiteout, killed twice, our voices no longer heard. I had a bad dream. But now my sound is carried through you. My bad dream becomes sweet dream. As you scream that there can be no renewed hope, no equality and justice for all. As long as there is no equality and justice for all of us, for each one of us, with all of our madly beautiful pieces, parts, fears, contradictions, and dreams, that there can be no postmodern, post-colonial equality and justice for all. As long as our bodies and minds are still colonized, are still kept as someone's occupied territories, as long as dreams are still squashed, as long as queers and Chumash and post-nuclear Pacific Islanders, as Bosnians and Filipinas and women with cervical cancer, and Miwoks and Yokuts and Iraqis, and immigrants and women with HIV, and Chechnyans and Kashmiris and Filipino Moros, and poor colored butch dykes and mixed blood people, drag kings and drag queens, and Rwandans and Israeli refugees, and people living with HIV and Palestinians, and Chicanas, and pagan leather queers, and South Asians, and people without health care, and intersex, and polysex, and Puerto Ricanas, and transgender Sufis, and Black folks, and sex workers and Persian Muslims, and Ethiopian Jews and Tibetans, and Maidu and Pomo and Muslims, and people with disabilities, and Sri Lankan freedom fighters, and prisoners, and Sri Lankan freedom fighters, and prisoners, and Asian teenagers, and homeless people and Arabs, and who knows how many others of all sizes, shapes, colors, and combinations of all the above, and then some, continue to be made erased, continue to be suffocated, continue to be killed. You are my sweet dream. Through you I live on, from generation to generation, from everlasting to everlasting, and fiercely, proudly, tenderly, queerly, I come home to run, to fly, to float, to shout, to say no more nightmares, fulfill my sweet dream.
Thank you for offering those powerful words to us this Pride Sunday. Let's enter into the time that we dedicate for spiritual exercise, mindfulness, and meditation. We can begin by opening our hearts and connecting with our deepest being through our breathing. You may want to sit up comfortably with your feet placed firmly on the ground. You may wish to close your eyes and open your imagination. Allow each breath to take you into this moment, deeper into being. In this sacred space, we have a few joys and sorrows to share with the community this morning. It's with great sadness that I share that Tom Ahern's sister, Marge, died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 70. She was a wife and mother with 2 sons and 3 grandchildren, and she will be dearly missed. Let us hold Tom, Marge, and their families and all who love them in the light of our beloved community. It's also with great joy that I share that Allison Kendall and Francois Barr just returned from Santa Cruz, where they attended a presentation by their daughter, Jessica Kendallbar, on her UC doctoral thesis on sleep in northern elephant seals. Celebrations continued throughout the weekend with colleagues, friends, and family, and we celebrate with them as well this morning. Congratulations on this important achievement. Now, our mindfulness meditation this morning invites us to attend Pride in our hearts and our minds. Now, next week, you're welcome to join our community at the annual Pride Parade, and we'll be sending more information out this week about the logistics. But if you're unable to attend, we offer these moments for mindfulness and celebrating together. Our words are adapted from For Pride by Lois Van Leer. They will march, walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake. Block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing, or lack thereof, hands raised, hands linked apart, together, singing, shouting, chanting, silent, joyful, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, free. The stereotype, the unrecognizable, the flamboyant, the ordinary, the parent, the child, the runaway, the lost, the lonely, the found, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, questioning, allies. Those who taunt and jeer their banners of hate 10 feet tall. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Burn in hell. The other slogans. Straight but not narrow. I love my gay child. We are standing on the side of love. We are siding with love. One day a year, 1 out of 365, Mardi Gras out of season, festive, bacchanalian, tame, booths, food, shopping. Underneath there is a history, resistance. It was the marginalized of the marginalized, drag queens, trans people, the butch and the femme. One like Rosa Parks did not sit down, but in their tired rage stood up, rose up, fought back, holding the police captive in the bars they had come to raid. Their weapons, their oppression, their hands, beer bottles, Stonewall. 6 days of riots in New York, June 1969. A year later, a march in Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. And now, any weekend in June, anywhere around the world, Pride. Why do we march? For those who are not able, for those who have been murdered, for those who are ravaged by disease, for those who are still beaten, still taunted, still harassed, still victims, still targets. Why do we march? Because some truths ain't self-evident, because all men ain't protected equal, and we love a good party. They will march. Walk, wheel, dance, shimmy, and shake, block upon block of undulating color, flesh, banners, signs, clothing, or lack thereof, hands raised, hands linked apart together, singing, shouting, chanting, silent, joyful, tearful, nervous, afraid, proud, defiant, angry, happy, delirious, tentative, ecstatic, courageous, brave, free. Let us meditate together. With a few minutes of silent meditation, I'll ring our singing bowl to begin and end our time. Pride began as a riot with trans women, people of color, drag queens, people living with addictions, working class, and poor people leading the way. These individuals dared to live into their authentic selves in a time when they faced every imaginable kind of violence and oppression from virtually every sector of our society. They dared to hold space for their rainbow community, despite the persecution and risks to their lives and livelihoods. They dared to dream of a society that not only embraced LGBTIAQ people, but that would be transformed by their very presences in that society. Now, we've always known queer existences are a threat. They're a threat to those who believe that you could oppress people with violence and by denying them their basic human rights. In that way, the queer community and queer liberation is a threat to racism, a threat to misogyny, a threat to the gender binary, a threat to erotophobia, a threat to the class system that serves the wealthy, a threat to limited mentalities of injustice and inequity. Queer people are the people of the rainbow, and our identities cross all boundaries of geography, culture, nationality, religion, race, sex, gender, class, disability, immigration status, and many of the other ways humans have tried to categorize, separate, divide, control, and conquer people. We are Black and brown, Asian and Pacific Islander, European and First Nations, Mexican and American. We are Jews and Christians, Muslims and agnostics, Wiccans and Taoists, atheists and Buddhists. We come in all shapes and sizes, in all of life's stages, temporarily able-bodied and disabled, rich and poor, but more often poor, of the East and of the West, female, non-binary, male, transgender, and gender queer. We are the people of the rainbow, and we are a common thread that unites all of humanity in all of its diversity, in all of those dazzling displays of difference. And it's during Pride that we remember our herstory, our sistery, our history, and let our beautiful light shine so that it can pierce those gloomy clouds of sameness, injustice, and oppression. Now, as Unitarian Universalists, we hold a special place in the hearts and minds of many in the queer community. It was in church committee meetings and at coffee hours and from our pulpits that queer communities first found a critical ally in the work of queer liberation. Now, we know that some of our liberal communities were advocating for LGBTIAQ people and even blessing their unions in the 1950s. Our own beloved Reverend Ernie Pipes recounted how it was in that era that he first witnessed the marriage of two men. Now, of course, queer people have always existed in every time and place, and we've created communities of resistance and joy ourselves throughout all of human history. But our Unitarian Universalist communities dared to openly embrace queer communities, and together we help to shape and guide our journey towards liberation. In the 1960s, it became commonplace for Unitarian Universalist sanctuary communities to serve as sanctuaries and meeting houses for LGBTIAQ people, and often as places for organizing and activism when there was nowhere else to go. In 1970, representatives from all of our congregations gathered in our General Assembly and voted nationally to call for an end to discrimination against gays and bisexuals, and for a society to take detailed measures to address the, quote, severe discrimination by society, and in particular the police and other arms of government. It's also in this resolution that we called for a reform in sexuality education to promote a healthy, scientifically informed, sex-positive, and queer-inclusive sexuality education curriculum. In 1973, the UUA opened its first offices for gay affairs, and by 1980, our national movement called for the ordination and settlement of lesbian, gay, and bisexual ministers. Now, I was born in the early 80s, well before most of you, and I remember what it was like for queer people in that era. And I'm astounded whenever I consider where our movement was in terms of queer rights when most of society was perfectly satisfied with the oppression of queer people, and many were happy to witness a generation of gay men being wiped out by the AIDS epidemic. In 1984, we called for a recognition of queer unions in our churches nationally, 31 years before the United States did the same. Did we really have to wait that long? Through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, our movement was calling for an end to the military ban on queer service, calling for an end to the Boy Scouts discrimination, and was opposing marriage protection acts and urging marriage equality. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, we began to include trans people in our work nationally, and again, did we really have to wait that long? In the 1990s, one of our prophetic seminaries, Star King School for the Ministry, hired the first queer and bisexual theological school leaders in the world. Then two of my dear mentors, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker and Dr. Ibrahim Farajajé, became the president and chief academic officers of the school, and went on to create the first anti-racist and anti-oppressive theological curriculum in the world. Our national movement was at the forefront of marriage equality, with our ministers and congregations leading the charge in multiple states. Several of the prominent plaintiffs in the marriage equality cases that laid the foundation for equality in this country were, of course, Unitarian Universalists. So we have much to be proud of this pride. Now, while we've achieved significant legal equality for the queer community in this country, the global plague of violence and hate against us continues. In many states in this nation, only half of the population supports queer equality, and the hate and discrimination directed at trans and queer people by state legislators and conservative religions continues unabated. When our communities rioted and organized and marched, they dreamed of hearts expanded and spirits set free by queer liberation. It was a movement not only for queer people, but a progressive and often intersectional movement for everyone who had been excluded, marginalized, or oppressed by conservative religion, sex shame, rigid gender norms, white supremacy, capitalistic exploitation, patriarchal authoritarianism, and our ableist culture. Queer dreams were always far more expansive than marriage equality or non-discrimination laws. We're living in dangerous times when that radical spirit, which set so many of us free, is threatened, like so many things in our society, by corporatism and capitalism, white supremacy and militarism. We cannot allow neoliberals or conservatives to steal or commodify or whitewash our beautifully colorful and vibrant dreams as queer people and people of liberal faith. Just as the other year, our church was denied our application to march in the Pride Parade, while there was plenty of room for corporations whose missions have nothing to do with justice or equality, or just as the other day, as I received a Pride social media advertisement from the United States Marines that was, hold on, expressing their commitment to equality with a soldier's helmet with rainbow-tipped bullets encircling it. Check out the Marines' social media page on Instagram if you want to see it for yourselves. Oppressive institutions are slapping rainbows on everyone and everything so fast, they're losing their meaning. And what loses its meaning eventually means nothing. Our pride has to resist these forces of assimilation to the norms of cis-heteropatriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism by celebrating queer lives and queer communities in all of their differences and in all of their complexities. We have to refresh those radical visions of our ancestors unless we are to give into this myth of sameness, a myth Audre Lorde once had warned us has the power to destroy us. My queer siblings, this pride, let's not forget, as Ibrahim Baba reminds us, that we are the dreamers of the dream, the tellers of the tale, the keepers of the rhythm, the tribes of the moon, the people of the rainbow, a sacred people. Together, as queer people and people of liberal faith, let's keep these dreams alive and keep dreaming together until everyone is free. Happy Pride.
June Generous Congregation recipient is the Transgender Law Center. Our practice here at UUSM is to dedicate half of our non-pledge Sunday offerings to organizations doing work in the world that advances our Unitarian Universalist principles. The other 50% of the offering is used to support the life of the church. This month, half of our Sunday offering will go to the Transgender Law Center. Your donations will help the Transgender Law Center continue their work in providing the resources necessary to advance the rights of transgender and gender non-conforming people. Please consider supporting the mission of our church and the Transgender Law Center. There are 3 ways to give: text, website, or mail a check. Using your smartphone, text 844-982-0209. I'll repeat that. 844-982-0209 with the donation amount and the code for where the funds will be posted. To make a pledge contribution, use PLG, for instance, $20 PLG. To make another non-pledge contribution, use IDC, $20 IDC. To make a generous congregation contribution, use code GCC, for example, 20 GCC. Easy text giving makes a big difference. Donations of any amount are gratefully accepted. The first time you give, you'll be asked to register. You can make a one-time donation or set up a recurring payment for your pledge or another purpose on our website. Visit https://uusm.org/make-a-donation. Of course, we happily accept your checks. Mail to the church office. If you are contributing to the church by check, our bank politely requested, that the full name of the church is spelled on the to line. Unitarian, Universalist, Community, Church of Santa Monica. Not UUSM, UUCCSM, Unitarian, Universalist, Community Church of Santa Monica.
all your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all our scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. We'll fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricade and reaching for the sun. Yeah, that's what we've become. I won't let them break me down to dust, 'cause I know that there's a place for us. When the sparkest birds want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching on, marching on. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching on. No apologies.
This is me.
So now we invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in our final hymn, which is a mashup of How Could Anyone and Christina Aguilera's Beautiful. So we invite you to sing along with us.
May you go with pride. May you hold fast to that which is queer. May you return to no person evil for evil, but strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor all beings. May you go and be blessed, and may you be a blessing.